The Solartron bench meter from circa 1984, GPIB controlled, fairly basic meter, but they're quite accurate, and there are quite a few of them around, and it's just a nice meter to have on the bench. But you can see it's LCD display, and they are prone, these LCD displays, to being lacking contrast, and there's adjustment actually on the top inside the unit just here. There's a little pot you can adjust the contrast with. That was the problem with this one. I think that's probably why it was being sold, because the display was a bit flaky. And also it's a backlit display on this, and because of its age, the backlight is very weak, and I don't know if you can see that. It's just about, I'll turn the light out in the workshop, you might just about see it's really dim. Pretty useless for even viewing in reasonable daylight. So the plan of this evening was to change some of the LEDs in it, and I bought some new LEDs. So what I'm going to do is attempt to take it apart. Bought some ultra bright LEDs, and hopefully just be able to replace the LEDs in it, and at least make it a little more visible. So that's the purpose of this video tonight. So let's take it apart. Let's see how it works. See how we can get to it. I'm hoping they'll just sort of be a fairly straightforward drop-in sort of system. I'm not too sure. I know I've got to take the front panel off, but let's have a look anyway. Just zoom in a bit so you can see. Just remove 4 screws in the base. Okay. Turn up the correct way. That's the top of it. Let's have a look to see how this all comes apart. I'll turn it over and lift the base of it. Hopefully this will just slide out. Okay, this board looks like it's going to separate. Be a bit careful that you don't pull anything apart that's going to damage any connectors or anything. A big ground connection earth tag here, so pop these off. Taking these clips off here. Out, I can see a bit better. Okay. That's the bottom board out, and it's the comprises the what looks like the power supply and the rear terminal sensing and things like that. So let's get this off here. Like a screen. There's this screen. Looks like to me the front panel is. I don't know if I need to remove anything else. It looks like the front panel just slots into some slots, so I might be able to just undo some screws here and get the thing out. That'd be easy if I can. I need to remove the transformer screws, just allow the board to sit up slightly higher. Okay, that's better. Let's get the screws out of the transformer. Okay, I've got 2 screws here that hold the front panel by the looks of it. That's away from the bottom of the base. One screw here on one side. I'm not going to disconnect anything because I don't want to run the risk of losing any volatile information in the unit, like RAM data or anything like that. So this connection here it looks like that's soldered. What is it? No, it's not. That's the connection there, so I might be able to pull that through. Might not need to actually. Alright, so find where these LEDs are. Just there. So what I think I'll do is I'll just, for the time being, just power it up, make sure it's not shorting out to anything, power it up so I can see. Can I do that? Power it up and see for the LEDs. I'm going to have to take the LEDs off, aren't I? Because it's not going to have enough. The voltage drop's going to be too high on the new LEDs, and they won't light them up because the older LEDs have probably only got a very low voltage drop, so they'll conduct first. So let's take the front panel off and let's have a look, see what we've got. Always be advised that when you're working with stuff like this, you bear in mind that there are very static sensitive devices in here. You should really be wearing an anti-static strap, really. Okay, so this is the display. I can't really turn it around because it's, but you can see the LEDs down here. There's the let's take the camera off. So here we go. Here's the front display, LCD display. If it's going to focus, that's the problem with focusing. Come on, there we go. So there's two of the LEDs one side, and the other two LEDs the other side. This is the control that adjusts the contrast. This focus, this little control here. So if you have got a problem with contrast a bit flaky on yours, just give that a little tweak, and you'll probably find it will correct the problem. So I'm going to remove a couple of the LEDs, make a note of which way they go in, and then I'll replace the new high brightness LEDs and see what we get. Because those LEDs are actually next to useless, they're probably so dim. So I'm hoping I won't have to do any more modifications to the unit other than that. Let's get these out of the way. These pop out of the way so I've got a bit more room to move. Okay, so need to remember which way is which. So let's solder these and see what we've got. You pull one of these LEDs out. I'm hoping just be able to replace it without changing any dropper. Series resistor, should I say. coming out easily. So which way do these go? They are big to the bend, same on the other side, so okay, two. Get these removed, hopefully. How do they come out? Screwdriver. God, they're bloody tightly in there. Okay, that's one. Basically tear them out of the fitting. Very tight in these clamps. Okay. One. You've got nothing to really lose, not even if these don't work as well as the last ones, because it was so dim anyway. They were actually a waste of space. I don't know what they were like before when they were new. Maybe they were better, but I couldn't really see anything with that. Apart from in a very, very low lit light, you know, like when basically the light's off in the workshop, you don't just about make it out then. Okay. two. So as you plug from there. Okay, that's two put in. I'm going to unsolder the other two now. Remove those. Not for the faint-hearted this actually, because you've got that little flexi that goes to the switches on the unit, and it's a bit fragile. And you've also got the pins on the other side of the board, so you have to be very careful actually. Okay, let's get both the legs off the LED. Okay, that's that. Also bear in mind that the LCD is very fragile. Okay, that's the two, so that's the four little yellow LEDs. Don't know if there were white LEDs around in this time actually. White LEDs, certainly this high brightness LEDs, are one of the fairly recent addition to the LED range. Clean these holes out. Okay. So I've got a broken bit of wire in one of the holes I need to clear. Yeah. Blocked up hole on one of the wires snapped on one of the old LEDs and left the pin behind. I'm trying to get it out, it's tiny. Got it. And sometimes you get one of these pieces of wire stuck in a hole. You can't believe how tight it can be to get out. You think you're just unsoldering, removing the solder would be enough. Often the case it isn't. It's actually damaged the pad slightly now, which is a pain. Okay, so we've damaged the hole slightly, but hopefully we should be able to repair that. Another hole bloody blocked. Still not clear. Okay, that's cleared it. Okay, yeah, that's cleared it. Right, I'll try again. Hope it's worth it in the end. Okay. One more LED. Can't quite get it in square. Okay, right, let's solder them up. Let's see what we got. Just solder them first, just in case they decide to fall through. Okay, soldered up. Okay, before I put the circuit board back onto the front cover, what I will do is make sure that the inside of the perspex is clear, so we haven't got any crud on the inside of the plastic, the window, so we haven't got a bit of dust or build up of dirt. So I'm just going to use a bit of window cleaner on the LCD first, just to wipe that over, and also on the screen, make sure that's nice and clean. I don't expect to be much of dirt on there, if there is any at all, but I'll just dry that off. Okay, so let's put that back on. Make making sure I haven't forgotten anything. It's got the 4 little screws here. What this can also suffer with is bad connections on these little pins here, these edge pins. They're very vulnerable. They're not in a protective shroud or anything. So you just have to be careful with those that you don't bend them. Doesn't matter too much. They're quite resilient. You can bend them straight again, but you don't want to bend them sort of right 90 degrees over, because they'll more than likely snap when you try and bend them straight again. So it's I'm hoping I've got these LEDs around the right way. It certainly looked like them the same way as the old ones were. One big advantage with LCD and actually LED displays over the present displays I've got on the Hewlett-Packard. And the Hewlett-Packards, they actually, after about 10 years, they become quite dim actually and fade away. And you can actually get to the point where they're so low emission that if you turn them on in the morning and it's a bit cold in the in the room, the display won't actually strike for 10-15 minutes. I know LCDs can cause a similar sort of problem when they're cold. They don't display correctly. Obviously LEDs don't have that problem. But the longevity of the meter is really down to, if someone hasn't blown it up, is the display itself. You know, if the display is still good, they last forever really. Okay. So let's plug that back into the. Got a slightly bent pin here already. Get them to line up at once. That looks good. Okay. So that's. Yeah, missed one. Looks good. Just check it with the torch, make sure the alignment's correct. That looks alright. So I think the thing to do, I suppose now, plug it in and power it up, just to see what it does. Where did this go? It was over here somewhere. That connector. Right, where did that go? The power supply, where is it? Here it is there. Okay. Just check for nothing shorting underneath the board. Whoa! Look at that. That's brilliant. That is miles better. I can read that. So there you go. That's fitting the fitting new LEDs to a Solartron 7150. It's fairly straightforward. You just have to be a bit careful with those pins on the front. All I've got to do now is reassemble it, but very pleased with that, and that looks great. And it's nice and bright. It's transformed the meter. Anyway, thanks for watching.